Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Darati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapatakamanam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrisabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyvari Pashacharya Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Haribol Jai Shri Prabhupada Hare Krishna Mit Prabhu please accept
Very
now.
good. Answers. All glories to Shri Prabhupada.
Haribol. So okay, today we continue from chapter 3, text number 41. Okay, I can read the first one. Tasmat
So
Vammin. I can read,
we two are there.
then you can read from that, Prabhu.
Okay.
Tasmat Vamindriyanadau Niyamya Bharatarshaba Papmanam Prajahihyenam Jnanam Vijnanam Nashanam. Hare Krishna Bhajahari Prabhu Dandarpanam Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Please accept my humble
So,
obeisances. All glory.
on the
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Tasmat, therefore, Tvam, you, Indriyani, senses, Adau, in the beginning, Niyamya, by regulating, Bharatarshaba, O chief amongst the descendants of Bharata, Pabmanam, the great symbol of sin, Rajahi, curb, he certainly, Enam, this Jnanam, knowledge, Vijnanam, scientific knowledge of the pure soul, Nashanam, destroyer. Translation. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Purport. The Lord advised Arjuna to regulate the senses from the very beginning so that he could curb the greatest sinful enemy, lust, which destroys the urge for self-realization and specifically knowledge of the self. Jnanam refers to knowledge of self as distinguished from non-self, or in other words, knowledge that the spirit soul is not the body. Vijnanam refers to specific knowledge of the spirit soul and knowledge of one's constitutional position and his relationship to the Supreme Soul. It is explained thus in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Jnanam Paramaguhyam me yad Vijnanam Samanvitam Sarahasyam Tad Angam Chagrihana Karitam Maya. The knowledge of the Self and the Supreme Self is very confidential and mysterious, being veiled by Maya, but such knowledge and specific realization can be understood if it's explained by the Lord Himself. Bhagavad Gita gives us that knowledge, specifically knowledge of the Self. The living entities are part and parcels of the Lord, and therefore they are simply meant to serve the Lord. This consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So from the very beginning of life, one has to learn this Krishna consciousness, and thereby one may become fully Krishna conscious and act accordingly. Lust is only the perverted reflection of the love of God, which is natural for every living entity. But if one is educated in Krishna consciousness from the very beginning, that natural love of God cannot deteriorate into lust. When love of God deteriorates into lust, it is very difficult to return to the normal condition. Nonetheless, Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of God by following the regulative principles of devotional service. So, from any stage of life or from the time of understanding its urgency, one can begin regulating the senses in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord, and turn the lust into love of Godhead, the highest perfectional stage of human life. Haribol. Okay, who wants to continue from text number 42?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Can you read?
Yeah, Prabhu. One verse I will read.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
इन्द्रियाणि पराणि अहुर इन्द्रियेभ्यः परं मनः मनसास्तु परबुद्धिर्यो बुद्धेः परतप्रतासुदः तु सः synonyms. In Indriyani senses parani superior ahus is said indriyabhya more than the senses param superior mana the mind manasa more than the mind tu also para superior buddhi intelligence ya one which buddhe more than intelligence pratah superior paratah superior to but sa he translation by his divine grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind, and he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. Purport. The senses are different outlet for the activities of lust. Lust is reserved within the body, but it is given vent through the senses. Therefore, the senses are superior to the body as the whole. These outlet are not in use when there is superior consciousness or Krishna consciousness. The soul make direct connection with the personality of Godhead. Therefore, the bodily functions as described here ultimately end in the supreme soul. Bodily actions means the function of the senses, and stopping the sense means stopping all bodily actions. But since the mind is active, then even though the body may be silent at rest, the mind will act as it does during the dreaming. But above the mind, there is the determination of the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul proper. If therefore the soul is directly engaged with the supreme, naturally all other subordinates, namely the intelligence, mind, and the senses, will be automatically engaged. In Katha Upanishad, there is a passage in which it is said that the object of sense gratification are superior to the senses, and mind is superior to the sense object. If therefore the mind is directly engaged in the service of Lord constantly, then there is no chance of the senses becoming engaged in other way. This mental attitude has already been explained. If the mind is engaged in the transcendental service of Lord, there is no chance of its being engaged in the lower propensities. In the Katha Upanishad, the soul has been described as a Mahan, the great. Therefore, the soul is above all, namely the sense object, the senses, the mind, and intelligence. Therefore, directly understanding the constitutional position of soul is solution of the whole problem. With intelligence, one has to seek out the constitutional position of soul and then engage the mind always in Krishna consciousness. That solve the whole problem. A neophyte spiritualist is all generally advised to keep aloof from the object of senses. One has to strengthen the mind by use of intelligence. If by intelligence one engages one's mind in Krishna consciousness by complete surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then automatically the mind becomes stronger. And even though the senses are very strong, like serpent, they will be no more effective than serpent with broken fangs. But even though the soul is master of intelligence and mind and senses also still, unless it is strengthened by the association with the Krishna in Krishna consciousness, there is very chance of falling down due to agitated mind. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Lebohang Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna Prabhu. Number
Jai
obeisances of Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Lebohang Prabhu, will you read? Or Amit Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, I can read.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Anyway.
एवं बुद्धे परम बुद्ध्वा संष्ट संष्टभ्यात्मनाम् आत्मना च हि शत्रुं महाबाहो कामरूपं दुराशतम्. Evam, thus buddhi of intelligence, param superior, buddha so knowing, sams samstabhya by studying, atmanam by the mind, atmana by deliberate intelligence, chahi conquer, shatrum the enemy, mahabaho o mighty armed one, kama rupam the form of lust, durasatam formidable. Translation. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to material senses, mind, and intelligence, one should control the lower self by the higher self, and thus, by superior, by spiritual strength, conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. Forward. The third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is conclusively directive to Krishna consciousness by knowing oneself as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without considering impersonal voidness as the ultimate end. In the material existence of life, one is certainly influenced by propensities for lust and desire for dominating the resources of material nature. Desire for overlording and sense gratification are the greatest enemies of the conditioned soul, but by the strength of Krishna consciousness, one can control the material senses, the mind, and the intelligence. One may not give up work and prescribed duties of all of a sudden, but by gradually developing Krishna consciousness, one can be situated in a transcendent position without being influenced by the material senses and the mind by steady intelligence directed towards toward one's pure identity. This is the sum total of this chapter. In the immature stage of material existence, philosophical speculations and artificial attempts to control the senses by the so-called practice of yogic postures can never help a man towards spiritual life. he must be trained in Krishna consciousness by higher intelligence. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to the third chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of Karma Yoga, or the discharge of one's prescribed duty in Krishna consciousness. Chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge. Next one. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha imam imam vivasvate yogam प्रोक्तवान् aham avyayam vivasvan manave praha praha manur ikshvakave pravit. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Imam, this vivas vivasyate vivasvate upon unto the Sun God, Yogam, the science of one's relationship to the Supreme, Proktavan, instructed, Aham, I, Avyayam, imperishable, Vivasvan, Vivasvan, the Sun God's name, Manave, unto the Father of mankind, of the name Vivasvata, Praha told Manu, the father of mankind, Iksu, Iksuakave, unto the king Iksuaku, Abravit said. Translation: the blessed Lord said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivasvan, and Vivasvan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Iksuak. Herein we find the history of the Bhagavad Gita traced from a remote time when it was delivered to the royal order. The kings of all planets. This science is especially meant for the protection of the inhabitants, and therefore the royal order should understand it in order to be able to rule the citizens and protect them from the material bondage to lust. Human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge. In, in cultivation to of spiritual knowledge in eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the executive heads of all states and all planets are obliged to impart this lesson to the citizens by education, culture, and devotion. In other words, the executive heads of all states are intended to spread the science of Krishna consciousness so that the people may take advantage of this great science and pursue a successful path, utilizing the opportunity of the human form of life. In this millennium, the sun god is known as Vivasvan, the king of the sun, which is the origin of all planets within the solar system. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said, Yachakshur esha savita sakala grahana raj, raja samasta sura murtir ashesha teja yasya yasyajnaya भ्रमति समृत कालचक्रो गोविंदम आदि पुरुषम तम अहम. Let me worship Lord Brahma. Let me worship Lord Brahma said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda Krishna, who is the original person and under whose order the sun, which is the king of all planets, is assuming immense power and heat. The sun represents the eye of the Lord and traverses its orbit in obedience to his order. The sun is the king of the planets, and the sun god at present of the name Vivasvan rules the sun planet, which is controlling all other planets by supplying heat and light. He is rotating under the order of Krishna, and Lord Krishna originally made Vivaswan his first disciple to understand the science of Bhagavad Gita. The Gita is not therefore a speculative treatise for the insignificant mundane scholar, but is a standard book of knowledge coming down from time immemorial. In the Mahabharata, Shanti Parva 348.51-52, we can trace out the history of Gita as follows. Treta Yugadau cha tato vivasvan manave tado manushya loka भृत्य अर्थम सुतायेक्षुवा कवे तदौ इक्ष्वाकुणा च कथितो व्याप्य लोकानवस्थितः. In the beginning of the Treta Yuga millennium, the science of the relationship with the Supreme was delivered by Vivaswan to Manu. Manu, being the father of mankind, gave it to his son Maharaj Ikshvak, the this earth, king of this earth planet and the forefather of the Raghu dynasty, in which Lord Ramchandra appeared. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita existed in the human society from the time of Maharaj Ikshvak. At the present moment, we have just passed through 5,000 years of the Kali Yuga, which lasts 4,32,000 years. Before this, there was Dwapar Yuga, 8 lakh years, and before that, there was Treta Yuga, 12 lakh years. Thus, some 20 lakh 5,000 years ago, Manu spoke the Bhagavad Gita to his disciple, the son Maharaj Ikshvaku, the king of this planet Earth. The age of the current Manu is calculated to last some um, 305 years, of which 120 400 something crores, 120 have passed. Accepting that before the birth of Manu, the Gita was spoken by the Lord to his disciple, the sun god Vivaswan. A rough estimate is that the Gita was spoken at least 120,400 years ago, and in the human society it has been extant uh, for 2 million years. It was re-spoken by the Lord again to Arjun about 5,000 years ago. That is the rough estimate of the history of Gita. According to the Gita itself, and according to the version of the speaker, Lord Shri Krishna, it was spoken to the sun god Vivaswan because he is also a Kshatriya and is the father of all Kshatriyas who are descendants of the sun god or the Surya Vamsha Kshatriyas. Because Bhagavad Gita is as good as the Vedas, being spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this knowledge is apau, apaurushaya, superhuman. Since the Vedic instructions are accepted as they are without human interpretation, the Gita must therefore be accepted without mundane interpretation. The mundane wranglers may speculate on the Gita in their own ways, but that is not Bhagavad Gita as it is. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita has to be accepted as it is from the disciplic succession. And it is described herein that Lord spoke to the sun god, the sun god spoke to his son Manu, and Manu spoke to his son Ikshwa. Text 2. एवं परंपरा प्राप्त एवं राजर्षयो विदु सकालनेह महता योगो नष्ट परंतप एवं thus parampara disciplic succession praptam received imam the science rajarashya the saintly things vidu understood sah that knowledge kalena in the course of time iha in this world mahata by great Yoga, the science of one's relationship with the Supreme. Nashtaha, scattered. Parantapa, O Arjun, a subduer of the enemies. Translation. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. Purport. It is clearly stated that the Gita was especially meant for the saintly kings because they were to execute its purpose in ruling over the citizens. Certainly, Bhagavad Gita was never meant for the demonic persons who would dissipate its value for no one's benefit and would devise all types of interpretations according to personal whims. As soon as the original purpose was scattered by the motives of the unscrupulous commentators, there arose the need to re-establish the disciplic succession. 5,000 years ago, it was detected by the Lord Himself and that the disciplic succession was broken, and therefore He declared that the purpose of the Gita appeared to be lost. In the same way, at the present moment, also there are so many editions of the Gita, especially in English, but almost all of them are not according to the authorized disciplic succession. Yeah, there are innumerable interpretations rendered by different mundane scholars, but almost all of them do not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Although they make a good business on the words of Sri Krishna, this spirit is demoniac because demons do not believe in God but simply enjoy the property of the Supreme. Since there is a great need of an edition of the Gita in English, as it is received by the Parampara, disciplic succession, Parampara system, an attempt is made herewith to fulfill this great want. Bhagavad Gita, accepted as it is a great boon to humanity. But if it is accepted as a treatise of philosophical speculations, it is simply a waste of time. Text 3. स एवायं मया तेद्य योगः प्रोक्तः पुरातनः भक्तोऽसि मे सखा चेति रहस्यं ह्येतदुत्तमम्. Sah, the same ancient, Eva certainly, uh, I am this Maya by me, they unto you, Adya today, Yoga, the science of yoga, Prokta, spoken, Puratan, very old, Bhakta, devotee, and Asi, you are, may, my, Sakha, friend, Cha, also, Iti, therefore, Rahasyam, mystery, he certainly, Etat, this, Uttamam, transcendent. Translation. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend. Therefore, you can understand the transcendental mystery of this science. Purport. There are two classes of men, namely the devotee and the demon. The Lord selected Arjun as the recipient of this great science owing to his becoming the devotee of the Lord, but for the demon it is not possible to understand great mysterious science. There are a number of editions of this great book of knowledge. Some of them have commentaries by the devotees, and some of them have commentaries by the demons. Commentation by the devotees is real, whereas that of the demons is useless. Arjun accepts Sri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and any commentary on the Gita following in the footsteps of Arjun is real devotional service to the cause of this great science. The demonic, however, concoct something about Krishna and mislead the public and general readers from the path of Krishna's instructions. One should try to follow the disciplic succession from Arjuna and thus be benefited. Text 4 Arjuna Vacha Aparam Bhavato Janma Param Janma Vivasvatah Katham Etad Vijaniyam Tvam Adau Proktavan iti. Synonyms. Arjuna said, Aparam junior, Bhavatah your, Janma birth, Param superior, Janma third, Vivasvatah of the sun god, Katham how. Either this Vijaniya shall I understand. Tvam you are the in the beginning, Proktavan instructed iti thus. Translation. Uh, Arjuna said, the sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I? How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed the science to him? But Arjun is an accepted devotee of the Lord, so how could he not believe Krishna's words? The fact is that Arjun is not inquiring for himself, but for those who do not believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or for the demons who do not like the idea that Krishna should be accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For them only, Arjun inquires on this point, as if he were himself not aware of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. As it will be evident from the 10th chapter, Arjun knew perfectly well that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the fountainhead of the eternal, original person. Is very difficult for an ordinary man to understand. Therefore, to clarify this point, Arjun put this question before Krishna so that he himself could speak authoritatively. That Krishna is the supreme authority is accepted by the whole world, not only at present, but from time immemorial, and the demons alone reject. Anyway, since Krishna is the authority accepted by all, Arjun put this question before him in order that Krishna would describe himself without being depicted by the demons who always try to distort him in a way understandable to the demons and of their followers. It is necessary that everyone for his own interest know the signs of Krishna. Therefore, when Krishna himself speaks about himself, it is auspicious for all the worlds. To the demons, such explanations are by Krishna himself may appear to be strange because the demons always study Krishna uh, from their own standpoint. But those who are devotees heartily welcome the statements of Krishna when they are spoken by Krishna himself. The devotees will always worship such authoritative statements of Krishna because they are always eager to know more and more about him. The atheists who consider Krishna as an original man may in this way come to know that Krishna is superhuman and that he is Satchit Ananda Vigraha, the eternal form of bliss and knowledge, that he is transcendental and that he is above the domination of the modes of material nature and above the influence of time and space. A devotee of Krishna's like Arjun is undoubtedly above any misunderstanding of the transcendental position of Krishna. Arjun's putting this question before the Lord is simply an attempt by the devotee to defy the atheistic attitude of persons who consider Krishna to be an ordinary human being subject to the modes of material nature.
Oh, thank you so much, Prabhu. Okay, now we go
Thank
6 second prayers. चेतो दर्पणमार्जनं भवमहादावाग्निर्वापनम् श्रेयः कैरवचन्द्रिकावितरणं विद्यावादुजीवनम् अनन्तां बुद्धिवर्धनं प्रतिपदां पूर्णामृतस्वादनं सर्वात्मस्नपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्णसङ्कीर्तनम्
नाम्ना
You continue, Prabhu.
ओके प्रभु नाम्नामकारिबहुधा निज सर्वशक्तिस् तत्रापितान्यमिता स्मरणेन कालः एतादृशी तव कृपन् भगवन् ममापि दुर्दैवमेतृशम् हायजिनानुराग्रह
तृणादपि सुनिचेन तरोरपि सहिष्णुना अमानेन मानदेन कीर्तनीय सदा है.
ना धनं ना जनं ना सुन्दरीं कवितां वा जगदीश कामाय माम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भक्तवतात् भक्ति आहितु की त्यायी.
ऐनन्दतनुजा किङ्करं पतितं मम विषमे भवं बुधो कृपया तव पादपङ्कजस्थितधूलिसदृशं विचिन्तया
नयनं गलदाश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गदहृदया गिरा पुलकैर्निचितं वपु कदा तव नाम ग्रहणे भविष्यति.
युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्रविर्शायितं शून्यायितं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्दविरहेण मे
आशीस्ल्यवपदारथं पिनस्तु मां दर्शनं मर्मं हठं करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विधातुलन्पतो मत्प्राणनाथस्तु स एव नर्पणः
Haribo. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benedictions to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. Such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other. Oh, sorry, the fourth one. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotion service, birth after birth. Hello, hello.
O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet.
O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name?
Oh Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in this world in your absence.
I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by somebody, or makes me broken hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he's always my worshipful Lord unconditionally.
Go, Sri Siksastakam ki jai.
Jai.
To blaspheme the devotees who've dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord.
Bole Prabhu ki jai.
To consider demigods, to consider the name of demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. Okay, okay.
Disobey the order of the
Yes,
spiritual
yes.
master or consider him as an ordinary person.
Blaspheme the Vedic scriptures or scriptures in preference to the Vedic version.
Consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be an imagination.
To give some interpretations to the holy name of the Lord.
Commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities, Karma Kand.
To instruct a faithful
Yes.
person about glories of the holy name.
To not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy name and to maintain mental attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter, it is always an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema.
Panchakal.
Vanchakalpatarubhascha. Oh, let us offer our humble to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who are just like desired trees, who can fulfill all desires and are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarubhascha kripa sindhu evacha patitanam pavane bhayo Vaishnavayo namo namaha.
Namo Namaha.
Go in
Nanda
God's
Gaudiya
speed,
Vaishnava.
yeah.
Jai Prabhupada ki
Thank you,
jai.
Prabhu.
Jai Gaurav Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Bol.